Hey everybody, so we have a long-awaited video. We were going to keep this design for ourselves, but you guys loved the other lace design that Kaylina made so much that we are going to be doing our signature weekend tote, lace tote. This is my personal bag. I carried it for 5 years straight, and it's one of my favorite designs that I've ever made, even though it's very simple. So we're going to go through that. It's going to be a quick video. We have a couple housekeeping things though first. You guys sold out our release, our anniversary, our 15th anniversary release in like 7 hours. And there were a lot of people that didn't get anything and we feel bad. So what we did was we don't have any more shell because that was kind of a limited thing, but our signature has always been natural veg tan. So we did a run, and this is going to be, we're calling it the general release. So we made about, 50 or 80 of each, but we will make as many as sell as you guys buy. They are a general release, so we have 50 made and ready to ship, but it's not, don't order anything from us besides PDFs thinking you're going to get them before Christmas at this point. If you see this video, they're live. This is Herman Oak Natural Veg Tan, and we made them nice and slim. They're 3 ounce, so they're nice they're front pocket wallets, the same gold stamp, and then also, we wouldn't do the Ricardo sticker that we included, but this is the first Corter sticker, believe it or not, that's ever been made. I've never made a logo sticker ever. So I had a pile of these made. They're in the colors of the shop van. So you're getting 1994 Aerostar colors, tan and maroon. And one of those comes with every wallet. These are 25 bucks, these are 45 bucks. So same thing, we're not really making much profit. We just want to do something to celebrate 15 years, celebrate you guys allowing us to have this life and work this job and make this education accessible to everybody. So that's that. So link will be in the description for these, link will be in the description for the pattern for the bag, and link will be in the description for all of the materials we use from Buckle Guy, which, speaking of, we have things to share there as well before we start with the bag. So, as you guys know, we've been working on stitching chisels for a very long time. The chisels, the first round, the first batch, are completely done. We're just waiting on packaging. So they should be available this month, but we're within like 4 to 6 weeks of the first 300 sets being available. Secondly, a lot of you guys know that we've been working on the quarter pounder on our own. We couldn't get it done. It's just really hard to make a hammer. So Buckle Guy stepped in and produced this masterpiece, which is, Kaylina can attest, this is like unbelievable quality. So this is the quarter pounder is happening. It will look exactly like this, except we're going to polish the faces so that they're good for tapping down stitches. And you can pick, what I do with my hammer is, one side is for setting rivets, one side is for tapping stitches. So one gets all banged up or whatever, doesn't matter. One stays nice and polished. But this is sand cast iron, and it is unbelievable how clean this casting is. And the third thing is, obviously, we've been working on these for a very long time. This is actually a Buckle Guy made sample. So Buckle Guy is taking over production of all of our signature, the ideas that we had for tools, because we tried and we got there, but we needed their help to carry it through, and they'll be better fulfilling things, keeping stock, making sure they make and sell tools. It's better for our partnership. But we needed to work on this because in our original design, everything is brass. So when you take this knife apart, and this is why when I see people release tools really quick, it scares me a little bit because you have to test everything. And there are a couple dozen people that have these out in the wild. A lot of you watch. Some of our good friends we've made over the years through YouTube have been testing these. And the problem is that the brass wasn't thick enough in this handle because everything is threaded. And so the brass would start to split. And so we had a batch of 200 made. We thought we were ready to sell them, but we sent them out 6 months before we were ready to sell to make sure that they were all good because we had done 8 versions and the brass started splitting. So we handed them off to Buckle Guy. Their wonderful engineer, Kevin, is now on the job. This is a 3D printed model of what we're working on to make sure that we can make this out of full brass using CAD and stress programs and stuff I don't know how to use on the computer to make sure that this will not split. And so what we did was we thickened up the exterior walls, and he did a really cool taper and all sorts of stuff. So everything is being worked on. This is all early 2023 stuff. And soon enough, as crazy as it sounds, and this is a dream as leather workers, to be able to like make these ideas happen. All of the tools should be available. The first tools are going to be the chisels. Those are really close. I can't give you a date yet because we want everything to be perfect and we're just waiting on packaging. We worked really hard on everything, even the packaging. These are a little bit further away, but this one is pretty much, we're ready to give them the thumbs up on this and go into production on it. But we want to wait and release these two together. So we got to get through the testing on the brass first. And so that's our update. We don't usually do housekeeping stuff, but that is the update on the housekeeping. I get a lot of messages about the chisels and everything when they're coming out. I know it's a slow process with us, and I know you've seen other makers release tools really quickly. You can just go to a tool maker, pick something out of a catalog and have your logo put on it. We wanted to make everything from scratch and make them in ways that not only we thought were better, but that look nice, and you know, the curve from the chisels follows the curve of the hammer. We just wanted to make sure that everything was cohesive and gorgeous. It was beautiful too, because tools inspire us just as much as anything else when they're on our workbench. So that's our update on that. Let's get into the bag video. Okay, so this pattern is 4 pages that is a single bag, or a single piece. This is the original one that I made, gosh, 6 years ago. It's gonna look like this in the end, but you have to print it out on 4 pages. So the dotted lines overlap like all of our other patterns, and I always put mine together on a gridded mat. And I've cut these out, obviously, from an 8.5 by 11, and this is cardstock. So I'm just going to use the line on my mat to make sure everything lines up, and then excuse the noise. Put it on that one, and put it on that one. And then all we got to do is line this up with this, and we're good to cut out our curves and make a bag. So that'll stick there. So once this is together, all we have to do is cut out these little notches. Like I did put a little hole right there. Now these holes are a little oversized. You don't have to follow the actual hole size. But with a bag this big, you can use any size lace you want. So I kept them a little bit big. And when you're doing lace bags like this, the nice thing is it's not an exact science. So nothing needs to be super straight. Nothing needs to be super lined up. It's gonna go together and look great no matter what. But I did make the holes a little bit bigger in case you wanted to use thicker lacing or do like a Mexican basket weave, if you can even do that on these, or you know, whatever you'd like to do. But once these little pieces are cut out, that is our pattern. Now, what I'm gonna do is, I am using an old craft tool oblong punch. And then what this is, because I'm gonna use flat lace, is it's not a full circle, it's oblong, so the lace fits in a little bit better. This one is a 1/4 inch, so I can use actual 1/4 inch lace and it will work on this bag. So if you can find one of these or an oblong punch, that's what I would recommend. And I'm gonna go around now and I'm gonna punch out all the holes on my pattern except for these on the top. Now this is the first version of the pattern. These will be labeled. These holes are for handles. So these center holes are if you want to add a snap and a strap to the bag. These middle holes are for coal bag handles. That's what they're called, short handles. These outside holes are for shoulder handles. So those will be labeled on the pattern. I'm going to make a coal bag style exactly like this with no snap closure. So all I need to do is punch out the 2 center holes. And again, these will be labeled. It won't be as confusing as listening to me try to explain things with the wrong words. But obviously I'm not going to put a 15-inch strap in a pattern and make you print it out. So it will have the suggested length. It will have everything you need to know to just cut a strap and make a handle. So there's nothing really nuanced about this style bag, right? You are just making a laced bag. If you want to tool it, you can make it really beautiful, but it's not like we're doing fine leather craft. We're just banging out a bag in the style of like 70s arts and crafts movement stuff. So I'm going to use if I can maneuver this into place, I have a hide of 7 to 8 ounce Wicket and Craig veg tan. And I'm gonna cut it so that I can get 2 of these patterns, hopefully, out of one chunk. And if I can't, I'll save the rest for a smaller version or something, but hopefully I can. And then the handle, I'll show you, I like to do the handles on these a specific way that seems a little strange, but it wears in really nicely. And it's not a big secret. I'll just show it to you when it's handle time. So once we have the perimeter traced, I used to trace, you okay over there? Like catching the funny bone?
Okay.
Rude. Okay. So once we have the perimeter traced with our awl, I used to go through and like trace every circle with an awl, and that is a silly way to do things. So what we're gonna do is make sure we're all lined up, and then just use the punch we're gonna use, and just make a little mark on each one. It's way easier to do it that way. So we have both of our pieces cut. I like to put my logo right in the middle there. And what I'm gonna do on this is very simple finishing. So you can see on this one, as you wear down a bag like this, everything gets burnished, everything gets beat up. The more stains you get on it, the more stuff you sew to it and mark you get, the better it looks, right? It's blooming a little bit right now because it's been used well. But I'm not gonna burnish anything. All I'm gonna do, I'm gonna burnish the handles, I'm not burnishing anything on the bag. But since this is 7 to 8 ounce leather, it is very sharp. So we're just gonna take a beveler and just bevel the outside edge. That's all we're gonna do. Now, if you wanna go in and burnish everything, by all means go for it. But I think some of the magic of a bag like this, of a design like this, is that you can make a very formidable piece just very simply and have fun with it. And there's nothing wrong with doing super fine edge work, but sometimes you just sit down at the bench and you wanna make something in an hour and you want it to be bigger than a card holder. And this is one of those projects. So to put my money where my mouth is, so to speak, I'm gonna do just that. I'm just gonna take the sharp edge off, and then we're gonna start assembly. So to cut out these straps, super easy. I have a 3/4 inch round over curved punch, and I'm gonna measure 15 inches. That's generally my coal bag handle size for this bag. And this bag is just the right size for coal bag handles. A lot of people like shoulder straps, which is cool. You could do both too. I'll see if I can find some pictures to put in, but this bag looks really cool with 2 sets of straps. And you can also put shoulder strap attachment on the side. But it's small enough that I've only had the coal bag handles on mine for 5 years. As you can see, they're super duper worn. And it's not big enough to put anything heavy in. The only thing is like carrying. Sometimes you wish you could throw it over your shoulder. But for the most part, I love this. It's nice and small. There's nothing flopping all over the place. There's nothing that hangs down. It's just a very succinct little bag. So that's why I'm gonna go with that on these. So basically all we need to do is measure up a 1/2 inch. That's where our first rivet's gonna go. Then we're gonna go over to our pattern here, line that up, and mark where our second rivet's gonna go. Then we'll punch these holes, and we'll use these as a template to mark the holes on everything else. But before we actually set the rivets, well, first we want to make sure that we got this, which we do, perfect. Before we set the rivets, we're going to bevel the straps, because the strap is the most important part to keep comfortable, because it's the part that your hand makes contact with the most. So you can bevel them, burnish them, wax them up, make them super comfy. It's going to make whoever picks up this bag, if they own it or if they're thinking about buying it, think much more highly of it, because it's the tactile thing. People don't remember or don't realize sometimes. It's like when you,
Like doorknobs.
it's like, I was just gonna go into that, yeah. When you move into a house, when you're selling a house, one of the smallest things you can do to really affect people liking the house is change the doorknobs, because it's the thing they're touching. And it's the same with bags. If the handle's super comfortable, people aren't gonna realize why they like the bag. And it's not so much the look, it's the feel. Now these, if you already have one side attached, you might have to hold leather because it's also thick to get to sit right. If you have the button go across, it's no problem. It centers perfectly. So it's about quitting time. So we're gonna pick this up tomorrow morning, but I wanted to show you. So we have our fronts done now. The nice riveted handles. Now we use single cap rivets, and I realize I've never really gone into this. This is a very simple explanation, but there are single cap rivets and double cap rivets for tubular rivets, I believe. So a single cap is exactly as it sounds. It has one cap, which is the pretty part, and the backside is just, whoops, the backside is just a flat part. So that's what I'm using on these, just because I don't have any particular reason. You could use a double cap, but it sits a little flatter, so if you're putting things in and out, it doesn't look as nice, but in use it's a little bit nicer on a bag like this. A double cap is basically, it's two caps. So both of these come off, not both of the caps. I can't get it off now. There we go. So it's, all of these rivets are two pieces. They're a male part and a female part. The female part is always the cap. The male part is the difference. On a double cap rivet, it has a finished cap on one side, on the bottom of it. So no matter what side you look at it from, it looks like a cap rivet. On a single cap, you just have a normal back. Now there's no strength difference or anything like that. It's just, these are I think a little bit cheaper, and you can get them in a little bit longer sizes and stuff like that if you don't really care about the, not care, but if the bottom doesn't matter to you. And then you also can just use solid copper rivets or brass rivets. That's what I did on this one. And I did that facing out. Now the rule that I was always taught with this style rivet is that you always put the flat part on the side that's going to get the most contact with the most delicate stuff. So, because I was putting things, my laptop in and out, I put the flat part on the inside, and I set the rivet on the outside, smoothed it out. With these, you don't have that problem, although they are a little bit weaker. So, yeah, that's just a little explanation about rivets. So, we will pick it up tomorrow, where we will lace the bag and finish up. Okay, it's a new day. We're ready to get this thing finished. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut strips of lace. I'm using the same 7/8 ounce leather, which is a little thick for lace. I'm using my strap cutter, but you'll see why in a minute. So all I'm going to do is cut some 1/4 inch lace because my punch was 1/4 inch. And what I'm going to do is actually dampen this lace. Well, soak it actually. So with these bags specifically, I like to wet mold the lace. And what that does is you technically don't even have to use a knot at the ends. Now I'm going to use a knot, but once the lace dries, it's molded into place and it just kind of stays. If you look at a lot of old 70s bags, they'll just tuck the tail under on one end. And you got to be worried, you got to use a leather you're not worried about getting wet, damp, whatever. I'll just throw some oil on this bag when it's done, and any oil spots we get, or any water spots we get, should go. To pick which part of your bag you want to overlap the other part. I'm going to go with the branded side being the front, I guess, technically. So it's going to overlap this side. First seam we're going to stitch is the bottom. And I'm going to go in two because these two flaps are going to wrap up like this. So we're going to include these two holes in our side seam. So, take our dampened lace, we'll go in our third hole, pull that through, and we'll go in our third hole here, and pull this through. And that's it. We're just going to do that till we get to the third hole from the end on that side, and then we'll tie it off on the bottom. And I have tied a knot, I tied a knot in the bottom there, so we're good to go. And while you're doing this, you're going to want to kind of crank it down. So what I like to do is, I'll flip it over, and I'll pull fairly, I'll give it a healthy tug. And then we'll come back through here. And the only thing you really want to make sure of is that your lace isn't all twisty-turny. But because this is a small bag, the seams come together really quickly. So once we have everything laced up with the last two holes left open, I'm just going to clip a nice little angle there. Then I'm going to bring it over here to my stone. Take a wallet. Take a hammer. Hammer down that stitch line nice and flat. And once that dries, that'll be locked in solid. I mean, it's locked in solid now, but once it dries, it's really not going anywhere. So the next thing we need to do is bend these up, because they're next on the chopping block. And the first side is easy, the second side is a little more difficult because you're working inside a bag, but it's not that hard. Okay, so just to reiterate, these bottom corners, there's some trim room here, but this is, I'm just showing you because this is what you have to do, right? On the second side, I have this pinned down with my arm and I'm yanking, right? And the reason we do this, the reason I don't just make the pattern relief cut, is because when they break in, that's what happens. And we don't want this corner going soft. So this is 5 years old. I've used it for 5 years every day. And it's nice and hard still. It's not soft. It's not floppy. It stands up on its own when there's things in it. That's the reason why this corner is such a, for lack of a better term, pain in the ass to put together. But if you use a good solid lace, you're really going to crank it down. That's the process. So don't think you're doing something wrong. The other thing that helps is when you get the lace through this first hole, obviously it's going to want to separate at the second hole. To get it through the next holes, I'm going to leave everything loose at first. See, I hadn't made one of these in a while, but now I remember the problem. Kayleen was saying muscle memory. We used to make these all the time. What we're going to do is we're going to get everything through the holes that they need to be through. But I'm going to leave a loop here. Okay? We're going to use our fingers and crank that
Oh my god, that's right.
down.
That's right.
That's how we
So
do
you have
it.
to like push that inside part kind of like in, curve it a little bit.
Yeah, you need to push and curve,
Yeah.
and then you're also, I don't know if you can see this, but you're using your fingers as like a, would it be a lever? I don't know what it would be. I went to art school, but you got to crank it, and I'm talking
Machine for sure.
simple machine. Oh yeah, we're in ape technology, at the very least, gorillas. So you really got to crank it, and then once you get it to there, pull fast, and you have your perfect corner. Now, if you see a little bit of an angle here, that's okay. There's only so much cranking you can do, but you really want to make sure that you get this as tight as possible. And the reason for that is because I really wanted to design a bag that was not going to get super floppy as time went by. And as we can see with our sort of, with the old one, this will prevent that from happening. It's a very strong corner once you get it together. Then what I'm doing is I'm pushing this down to keep all that tension. And you'll see I'm losing a little bit of it, but we're going to do the same thing. I don't know how you're going to film this, but we're doing the same thing on the inside. So you're going to put...
What if you turned it towards the light? Yeah, there you go.
Okay. We're going to do the same thing on the inside of this one because you can see we're losing tension here. Use our two fingers, crank that down, and push. And then pull this one. And then right when you're ready, take your fingers out. And then push and pull and do all the things. So, when you're doing this part, you're going to be swearing at me. You're going to be like, I think you designed this wrong. I promise you I didn't. I just designed it so that the corner tucks into itself and long term really stays nice and strong and structured. So that's the only weird thing about this bag, is that this corner is a pain in the ass to put together. But besides that, once you get that done, you are free and clear to go. And you can also, if you don't mind, like if you want like a flexible tote bag, make it out of like 4 or 5 ounce leather. It's way easier to make that way, and it'll still be a beautiful, strong tote bag. What the heck is going on here? So once we are laced up, we have a bag. Now there's a couple things you're gonna wanna do. What I like to go through, what I like to do is I go through and I trim this tail off a little bit. We leave it as it is because depending on the leather, that tail is gonna sit a little bit differently on every hide. You can see even from side to side. I hate cutting leather with scissors.
It's really weird.
It's so bad. The second thing you're gonna do, we hammered down this side. We haven't hammered down these sides yet. We're just gonna put this in. We're gonna put it sideways on our granite and just go down from the inside. Don't hammer from the outside. You don't wanna make marks on your nice new lace. Hammer that side down. That side down. Now, when the lace dries, you could literally cut the knots off and it would stay forever. So after that, it's up to you whether you want to add a snap closure, which is included in the pattern, or if you want to just carry it like this, which is how I carried mine. You can also add to the lace, you can add like little hooks if you want to be able to put keys on them, do all sorts of fun stuff. But that being said, this is where our time ends for this video because we're done. So thank you guys so much for watching. Remember, we have the general release of the anniversary stuff is going to be at a link in the description. $45.25 if you want something. We just wanted to make something so everyone could have something, even though we sold out a shell. And I believe that's it. I think I already said this, but thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.